Hello, I'm Kathy Fox Alfano, host of Born TV's Election 22, Why Should We Vote for You? Today I'm welcoming Rob Galibois, Democratic candidate for Cape and Islands District Attorney. Rob, thank you for coming here to Born. We'd really like to get to know you better. First, Rob, tell us, just what does a district attorney do?
First off, good morning, Kathy, and thank you for having me on the show. District attorney's primary responsibility, of course, is public safety, and to get there, their office works with the police departments in the district. Here, it's all across Barnstable County, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket. And they work with the police department after the police decide to make a charge of someone. Typically, the DA's office is responsible for going forward with the prosecution in those cases at the district court level. There are certainly occasions when district attorneys themselves can lead their own investigation, and that's typically found with a grand jury presentment to indict someone and bring a case into Superior Court. So that's the essential role of the district attorney's office.
What experiences do you have that we need in a district attorney?
I've been practicing law now for 27 years, exclusively in the area of criminal law. I started off as a prosecutor back in the late 90s through the early 2000s. And like a lot of new young district court prosecutors, I did start in the district court. I covered the entire Cape through the 5 district courts. There's one in Barnstable, Orleans, Falmouth, and on each of the islands. And that's your misdemeanor type courts, your district courts. After about 3 years, I ascended up to the major felony court, Superior Court, and I did that for a couple of years. After about 5.5 years in the office, I went into private practice, exclusively in the area of criminal law, right in Barnstable Village. And then after about 5 years working in that particular firm, I took a leap of faith and I opened up my own practice, where I learned the value of creating a budget and operating inside the budget. The nature of my practice ranged from your misdemeanor type offenses, like your drunk driving or OUI type cases, all the way through major felonies like bank robbery type cases. So if you knock off a bank on the way home, give me a call.
I don't plan to.
And to date, I've been the lead attorney on 15 homicide cases.
Wow. So you've really kind of done this job already.
I've been doing it for quite a while. It's kind of interesting, Kathy. I look at the other candidates, and I could very well be the old man in the race. When I look around, there are 3 other candidates at the moment. And I'm offering that I have a diverse experience, having worked both sides, a prosecutor for a number of years, right, and as a defense attorney.
So what will your focus be if you win this race?
Well, like I said, any district attorney's office, the first priority has to be public safety. You got to build and maintain, and that's just as critical. Maintain the closest of bonds with your law enforcement officials that you work with. We've been explaining that the officer that stops that car in the middle of the night, approaches it alone, has to know the DA's office is going to have his back. In a similar way, that detective who's in her 15th hour working on search warrant applications to solve the rash of car break-ins, she needs to know the district attorney's office is going to have her back as well. So it's really important to maintain that particular relationship.
What will you do with the office? Like, what changes will you make?
We started this campaign, Kathy, back in January, shortly after the incumbent announced that he was no longer going to run. And from the outset of our campaign, literally right here in Bourne on Main Street, Buzzards Bay, all the way through Commercial Street, Provincetown, and virtually every place in between. And out on each island. I think we've been out to the islands now about 15, 16 times to this point.
Not a bad place to go.
No, it's not, especially in the summer. It's a little rough in February, but it's not too bad now. But a constant theme that we keep hearing is that there is a disconnect between the district attorney's office and the people that it serves. No one really knows what the DA's office does, and they certainly don't know anyone who works in the DA's office. So to guard against that, we've come up with 3 specifics. The first of which is on day 1 of my administration, I'm going to create a community engagement liaison position. And that it's going to be a full-time job. The person's responsibility, exclusive responsibility, is going to be in our neighborhoods and communities every single day to keep their finger on the pulse of the neighborhoods and report back directly to me. That person's not going to have an office. They're going to have a car and a cell phone. That's going to be their job. We also announced a few months back that we'll create a community coalition. We're calling it the DA and Us. And there's going to be a chapter in every single town and on each island. And the hope is that each coalition will be comprised of elected officials from that area, specifically someone from the select board, someone from the school committee. We would like local officials, including a police officer, and regular citizens to serve on this particular coalition. And there's going to be monthly meetings with our office, and it's just going to provide that second way for us to remain connected to the people that we serve. The third one, and this seems to be the most popular, we've been talking about how there are 65 employees in the office. Each one of those employees, including yours truly, is going to commit to 4 hours of community service to provide yet another avenue for us to stay connected to the people that we serve.
Is it 4 hours a month?
4 hours a month.
Wow.
So it's going to add up. I mean,
Great.
it's over 250
65
hours.
people.
Yeah,
That's
65
great.
people. That'll add up.
Are you going to like pick a project and everybody goes, or is it like individual?
We're going to leave it up to the individual employee, because the goal certainly too is to maintain that contact with the community, but you want the employee to want to do the voluntary service. You don't want to say, hey, you need to go do this. We'll lay out a bunch of options right in their own local community where they happen to be living, and hopefully they'll find something that they enjoy and go from there.
Do the 65 people, do they live all over your district, or are they mostly in Barnstable?
The
or?
anticipation is most of them will be from the Cape area.
Okay.
We may have some folks coming over the bridge, so to speak, but by and large, most of the folks will be living on the Cape area.
Great, okay. Now, as you know, the Cape has an increasing number of seniors retiring here.
Yes.
How can you protect seniors from scammers and other unscrupulous predators who feast on unsuspecting seniors?
Let me tell you, that is a problem that's been growing rapidly for a long time, and it actually accelerated quite a bit during the pandemic,
Right.
and it's still out there growing and growing. The best way to try to address it is, of course, through awareness and trying to work with your senior centers throughout the various communities and elder service centers throughout the various communities, just to try to reach out to as many seniors as you can to let them know, hey, this is going on, to be on the lookout for it, so to speak. It will also require a dedicated team from within our office, an elder service prosecutor, an elder services victim witness assistant, to work with those senior centers and elder service providers throughout the community. So if something should happen, they have the direct connect. They know who to go to try to address it as quickly as possible.
Are there any other programs that you'll establish to help protect seniors?
That's, I think, the best way, to try to have a dedicated team inside of your office. And again, it's going to be about trying to get the information out there as quickly as you can. Many police departments are very good at advising seniors of any scams that might be going on. You'll see it frequently in social media posts run by the police department. That's a great way to get the message out. And again, going through the senior service centers, or the senior centers, excuse me, a lot of them have the contact information for many seniors right there in their local communities, and that to broadcast what's going on is the best way to keep people in the know.
Great. You've talked about having veteran or mental health or other specific sessions.
Yes.
What does that actually mean?
So across the Commonwealth, there are these specialty district court sessions. In regards to the mental health one, it's referred to as the mental health court. And that's where a team of professionals in mental health will come in, and they'll work with a judge, they'll work with the defendant before the court, the probation officers, the prosecutors, and the defense attorneys, to try to get to that core issue. Is why is this person before the court? If you can identify that, then you can figure out how to work with that, treat it, and ultimately reduce recidivism if you actually get to the core of the issue. Because my practice carries me beyond the Cape, I've been in, I think, approximately 74 of the courts. I think there are 89 in total throughout the Commonwealth of Mass, about 74 out of 89. I get to see what's going on in other counties. And these specialty sessions exist in other counties, but not in the Cape and the Islands. Wow. So it's not as if I'm trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to bring these services down here to the Cape and Islands. And it's really curious, and I'll share this with your viewers. We started talking about this as well back in January, about the launching of mental health sessions and a veteran session. And I was the only one. And now I'm hearing on the campaign trail that a couple of my opponents are now talking about trying to launch the sessions as well. So
It's a good thing.
it is a good thing.
What? Is it just veteran sessions, mental health sessions, what other?
The veteran sessions would be a separate and distinct session. And again, these sessions exist in other counties throughout the Commonwealth, but not on the Cape and the Islands. In a veteran session, that's when you have volunteers that come in to work with a veteran defendant that's standing before the court. As you might imagine, veterans have their own experiences that they bring into the courtroom. When I started talking about this, Kathy, again back in January, I got a phone call from the district attorney out in Northampton, Mass. His name is David Sullivan. Never met the man before in my life. He said to me, "Hey, Rob, I hear you're talking about trying to create veteran sessions down on the Cape and the Islands." I said, "I did, and we're not going to ask about how you heard about that way out in Northampton, and I'm very early in my campaign," but he has his ear to the ground, I guess. So he had mentioned that he was coming to the Cape to see his sister who lives on the Cape, and we grabbed a coffee. And after about 2 hours of that coffee, he looks right at me and says, "Rob, you know what the special sauce is to run a successful veteran session?" "No, Dave. Tell me, how do you do it?" He said, "It's the pool of veterans that you can bring into the courtroom to work with that veteran standing before the judge. Barnstable County has the largest veterans population of any county in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we have this huge pool to draw from to bring these volunteers in. So it's just a session that it's ripe. It should have been going on for a while. It hasn't, and it's a priority of mine."
Wow. What is a diversion program, and do we have one now?
So a diversion program is when the district attorney decides to exercise its discretion and not go forward in a particular case. We do have them. They began, if I recall correctly, out of the juvenile court system. And it's when the district attorney's office can identify that, okay, this appears to be an aberration, that this person that's coming before the court is someone that we're likely not going to see again. If that person is willing to make some sort of commitment to the DA saying, "I'm willing to seek whatever treatment services I might need," or "I'm willing to engage in certain community service type work," and we have a layer of confidence that this is someone that we likely won't encounter again, we're willing to work with that person to preserve their record, to spare them a record, if you will, and divert that prosecution so long as they follow through with what they say they're going to follow through with. It matured into the district court level where you could have adults also engage, or the DA could work with adults to divert their cases. And this is something I'm trying to be a logical person. You see this run in many other counties, this adult diversion. A lot of other counties will cap it around age 21 or 22. I don't understand that, quite honestly. Someone could make their first mistake in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, and it's just that. It's a mistake. If it's a non-violent misdemeanor type offense, and again, we get that layer of comfort that this person won't be coming back before the court again, we will be willing to engage with that person to preserve their record. And again, this is something that I began talking about in January, and lo and behold, it started finding its way into a practice, I think, in February or March of this year.
Okay, great. Now, some people believe that a Democrat will be too soft on crime. What do you say to that?
Wait till you meet me. I'll lead off with that. That's a curious observation.
Yeah.
In Massachusetts, I got that question once before. There are 12 prosecuting offices. You have 11 district attorney's offices, and then the attorney general's office, which is statewide, of course. And 10 out of those 12 are elected Democrats.
Oh, okay.
So there are only 2 out of the 12 that are Republicans. Now, there shouldn't be any politics and prosecution, just absolutely not. Where I happen to bring some uniqueness to this particular race is the depth of my experiences, and I've gotten to see what other DA's offices do in other counties, and actually in other states. I've practiced in other states as well. And I get to see district attorneys try to transform whatever priorities of theirs into practice. I can let you know, for those that are certainly looking at the law enforcement angle of the DA's office, as they should be, I am well aware of certain policies that go on in other counties that don't go on here. So I think perhaps ironically, for those that may subscribe to, well, only more conservative or Republican types, can be tough on crime, so to speak. Wait till they see my office's policies on those that decide to traffic in heroin, Oxycontin, fentanyl. Those are cases that our offices will be moving to make sure those people are not released after arrest, that is, held without bail. That's something that's not going on presently in the Cape and Islands District Attorney's Office. So once you see our office taking shape and our administration launching, you'll be saying to yourself, okay, he is looking to keep our community safe and being pro-law enforcement.
How closely can you work with the town police force?
Very closely, and I have my own personal experience. Back when I was a prosecutor, this started early on in my prosecution days under Phil Rollins. I was assigned to the local district court for Bourne, which would be over in Falmouth, and I was the day in, day out lead prosecutor over in Falmouth. And oftentimes, and there's still some officers over at Falmouth PD that can confirm this, the courthouse happened to be about a mile or so from the local police department. In the afternoons, you would find me in the detective's office, in the dispatch, listening to calls coming in, out in the patrol cars going around in the neighborhood, just to foster that connection, build that relationship with the police officers that we serve. So that carried on as I continue on to Barnstable District Court, working with the Barnstable Police Department at the time. And that's something I'm looking to install in my district court prosecutors. I want them out there seeing what the police officers do on the daily and building that particular relationship.
Great. Will you fully prosecute sex offenders, drug dealers, and violent criminals?
Oh, most certainly. Most certainly. And again, we will have certain specialized prosecutors in the office that will deal exclusively with sex offender type cases. As you might imagine, those are crucially important types of cases, and you need someone who has the training and the experience in that line of prosecution, and we will have someone dedicated to that. Similarly, in the guns and drugs as well, you have various task force throughout the Cape and the Islands. That is a certain set of police officers whose jobs pretty much are exclusively to do narcotics investigations, and we will have folks in our office working closely with them, again, exclusively, so those prosecutors can build those relationships with those narcotics officers.
Who sets bail?
Judges set bail. Prosecutors typically request the particular bail. There are certain statutory provisions that a prosecutor can use to try to hold someone without bail. And that's what I was talking about earlier, with those that deal in fentanyl, heroin, Oxycontin. And that's something that you don't see here. When you see certain trafficking offenses come in, those are your drug dealers, your trafficking type offenses, those that are in the business, so to speak. We're not talking about addicts that are selling to support their habit. We're talking about those that are clearly in the business. There are statutory provisions that we can use to try to hold them without bail. And that will happen. Our requests will be made on every single case when it comes to heroin, fentanyl, and oxys, and that does not go on right now.
How about somebody who's been charged with child rape?
Yes, that would also fall under the sexual offenses in our office. That will be handled by not only a specialized prosecutor, and this is just as important, and this is something I think that is too often overlooked in district attorneys' offices. A specialized victim witness assistant. That's the person in the office that talks with and works with the victims in each particular case. The prosecutors tend to focus on the legalities and handling the case itself, the courtroom case, but you've also got to establish that close relationship with the victim in the case. That's why you should have a specially trained victim witness assistant that works with those types of victims, and we will.
You have mentioned about hiring a community engagement liaison.
Yes.
What exactly would that person do, and how would that help the DA's office?
It helps us stay connected. As I mentioned before, it's like when we've been going around the Cape and the Islands during this campaign, no one knows what the DA's office does. It's quite frustrating at times. So this person's job is to go around every single day. They're not going to be driving up to a particular office, and they're going to be talking with folks to see what's going on in their communities, we need to know what's going on. That's how we as a district attorney's office can best serve the public that we serve. So I'm placing a great emphasis on that particular position. I'm quite honestly looking forward to it. And that community engagement officer will also take part in those community coalition meetings that I mentioned that will occur on a monthly basis.
Great. Can you do anything more to help protect our children in schools?
Well, just like the seniors, the best way to try to protect children in schools, and as we all know, schools is one of those institutions in our communities. There are certain institutions that we have to emphasize must be crime-free. And schools, hospitals, churches, things of that sort. So trying to build those relationships with school administrators will be critical. And again, school administrators are in the best position to try to identify if someone appears to be having certain issues that might rise to trouble later on. So having that open line of communication from the school to the police department to the district attorney's office is vital, and we are looking forward to building those relationships.
Okay, finally, Rob.
Okay.
Why should we vote for you?
I'm going to say a couple different reasons. I do have the most experience out of all the candidates that are running in this particular race. I've been doing this for 27 years, or almost 3 decades. That takes the wind out of me a little bit when I say it that way. But and because of my experience, that gives me a unique vantage point in this race. I mentioned how I get to see other DA's offices across the Commonwealth and the country, and how those offices try to transform their priorities into practice. I bring that to the table. I think I also have a unique experience in that I've been a prosecutor for a number of years and a defense attorney for a number of years. So I've seen cases from both sides, if you will. And I think there's an intrinsic value to that type of an experience that none of the other candidates bring to the table, if you will. So my experience I offer is one reason you should vote for me, but just as importantly, I have a vision. I've been the only one since January, since the very beginning when people started coming out announcing that they were going to run for DA, that I had specific plans that I was going to put into place as the DA. And the community engagement component was something from the very beginning. We talked about the 3 specifics: launching the mental health court session and launching the veteran session. Our campaign has been going around talking about the 4 cornerstones for public safety: engagement, experience, integrity, and accountability. After about 48 years, that's nearly a half a century of essentially the same administration that's been in place. The complacency has run deep, and you can find that complacency by no community engagement. A lot of people don't know who the DA is or what they do. No mental health court session, which exists throughout the Commonwealth but not here. No veteran session, which again exists throughout the Commonwealth but not here. So based on my experience and my vision and how I'm going to run the district attorney's office, I think I present as the best of the candidates running for this job, and I ask your viewers for your vote.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very
best
much,
of luck
Kathy.
in the November 8th election.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Really. So you've been watching this on Born TV. You can watch this and my other interviews on borntv.com. Please watch, meet all the candidates, you be the judge, and get out and vote.